Here is a number that should make you set down whatever you are holding. The average college student spends $1,200 a year on textbooks. That is not tuition, that is not housing, that is just books. And since 1978, textbook prices have risen 812%. For comparison, medical costs rose 575% over the same period. Housing rose 400%. Textbooks beat them both. By the end of this video, you will never walk into a campus bookstore the same way again. So what is the official story? Publishers will tell you that knowledge advances rapidly. They will tell you that fields like biology, medicine, and computer science change so fast that a 3-year-old textbook is practically dangerous. They will point to new research, updated figures, and revised pedagogical approaches. And honestly, for a narrow slice of subjects, that is partially true. A 2019 neuroscience textbook does need updates, but here is the problem. That same logic is applied to Introduction to Economics, to English composition, to art history. Subjects that do not fundamentally change every 36 months. The official story is real in some cases and a smokescreen in most others. Here is the real mechanism, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The used book market is the enemy of textbook publishers. When a student finishes a course, they sell their book back. The next student buys it used for half the price. The publisher gets $0 from that second sale, 0 from the third, 0 from the fourth. One printed book can circulate through 4 or 5 students, and the publisher only gets paid once. A new edition breaks that chain completely. The moment a new edition drops, every used copy of the previous edition becomes worthless for the current course. Professors assign the new edition. Students cannot use last year's version. The used market resets to 0, and the publisher gets paid again. This is not a theory, it is a documented business strategy. Pearson Education, the largest educational publisher in the world with over $4 billion in annual revenue, has openly discussed edition cycling in investor communications as a mechanism to protect against secondary market erosion. That is the corporate phrase for students buying used books. Secondary market erosion. They see your ability to save money as a threat to their bottom line. Now let's talk about who designed this system and when it got aggressive. In the 1990s and early 2000s, the internet made it dramatically easier to find used textbooks. Sites like AbeBooks, Half.com, and eventually Amazon allowed students to find used copies from across the country in minutes. Before that, you were limited to your campus bookstore's used section. Publishers watched their new book sales drop, and they responded by accelerating the edition cycle. A 2005 report by the Government Accountability Office found that new editions were being released every 3 to 4 years, often with changes that professors themselves described as cosmetic. The GAO specifically noted that publishers acknowledge the used book market as a primary driver of new editions. This is in the government report. They said it out loud. Here is what the changes actually look like. A 2013 study published in the journal Research in Higher Education analyzed multiple consecutive editions of popular introductory textbooks. The researchers found that between 30 and 40% of new edition changes were limited to renumbering chapters, reordering problem sets, and swapping out photos. The actual academic content, the ideas, the theories, the frameworks, was largely identical. Publishers were essentially selling students a reshuffled deck of cards at full price and calling it a new product. And professors are not entirely innocent here either. Some publishers offer instructors what are called desk copies, an instructor resource package, free copies of the new edition, supplemental materials, test banks, PowerPoint slides, all provided at no cost to the professor who adopts the textbook. The professor never pays, the student always pays. This creates a purchasing dynamic where the person choosing the product has no financial stake in the decision. A 2016 survey by Florida Virtual Campus found that 66% of students had skipped buying a required textbook because of the cost. Of those students, 47% said they believed it negatively affected their grade. The system is not just expensive, it is actively harming academic outcomes. Let's talk real dollars. A single biology textbook from Pearson or McGraw-Hill can cost $280 to $320 new. The same content from 3 years prior, available used, costs $30. That is a $250 gap, manufactured by a chapter reorganization and a new cover photo. Over a 4-year degree, if a student takes 5 courses per semester that each require a textbook, they will spend somewhere between $4,500 and $6,000 on books alone. If they buy new, students who find workarounds spend closer to $900 over 4 years. That gap, roughly $5,000, is the direct cost of the addition cycle to one individual student. So what can you actually do about it? First, always check if your professor will accept the previous edition. Many will. Ask directly before the semester starts. Second, use the ESBN number from the syllabus to search on AbeBooks, Thrift Books, and Chegg before you ever visit the campus store. Third, check your campus library. Many universities now keep course textbooks on reserve for short-term borrowing. Fourth, look for the international edition. Publishers sell the same textbook in paperback to students in other countries for a fraction of the domestic price. The content is functionally identical. It is legal to buy and own. Students have been doing this for years. And now here is the final fact, the one I saved for last. The one that honestly should make you furious. In 2022, Pearson announced a new strategy. They called it their digital-first model. Instead of selling a physical textbook that a student could resell or share, they would move to a subscription model. You do not buy the book, you rent access to it. When the semester ends, access expires. You cannot resell it, you cannot lend it. You cannot even keep your own highlights and notes unless you pay again. The used book market does not just get disrupted, it ceases to exist entirely. Pearson's CEO called it a way to have a more intimate and continuous relationship with learners. What it actually is the final evolution of a 40-year strategy to ensure you can never, ever pay for a textbook just once. Follow this channel. We post the real reason behind everyday things every single day.